Perhaps you're living a life where everything looks great on the surface and you feel like you should be satisfied, but you found yourself asking, is there something more? Well, you're not alone. My guest today had what most would consider a perfect life, the career, the house, a wonderful wife and kids, and yet he found himself desiring more and as a result experienced what he called his midlife existential crisis. This led him on a spiritual journey and resulted in a joyful and fulfilled life, traveling the world teaching ordinary individuals how to access their extraordinary potential. Rob Koenig is the co-director of the Reconnection LLC, an international organization dedicated to promoting the advancement and expansion of human consciousness and life progress through the Reconnective Healing Experience. He lives in Long Island, New York, where he has been a school psychologist for over 25 years. He is also the co-owner of the Holistic Center for Soulful Living in his hometown. I am so honored to have him here in this episode, and welcome, Rob.
Thank you, Teresa. It is such an honor and a privilege to be on this show with you. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's talk about midlife existential crisis, because I had one too, Rob, and this is crazy, right? So I would love for you to share a little bit about how that happened and how it, moved you into what you're doing now.
Absolutely. Many people, when they get into their 40s, heading to their 50s, it's not unusual, right, to come to a point where you start questioning, what's next for me, and trying to capture some enthusiasm and excitement about life again. And for me, instead of wanting a new shiny sports car or something material, I found myself just completely feeling disconnected to kind of the bigger aspects of my life experience. I began craving answers to questions that I had never asked before, like the big ones, like, why are we here? What is it all about? And I really felt really, I was concerned that I was on what I considered kind of like that rat wheel, where I was waking up and rinse, repeat, doing the same thing day and after day. And even though, like you said in the intro, even though I had all the trappings of a successful life on the outside, there was something absolutely missing from my perception and my experience of joy and fulfillment. And it set me on this trail where I just had to find answers. I had to fill in what was missing. And I'll be honest, I did not have much of a sense of spirituality in my life for a good part of my life. I mean, it wasn't until this was about my early 40s where this started kind of showing up for me, these feelings, these desires. And I began really seeking out answers through spirituality, through metaphysics. For the first time in my life, I became curious about these topics, and I began reading and getting, as many books as I get my hands on these topics, because I needed to know more. I needed to know, what was it that I was missing? And as I began to devour information, yes, I began to feel a little more sense of hope, a sense of wonder about the true nature of reality and existence. And it started me off on this kind of new quest of discovery. And I'll tell you, Teresa, that when this began to happen, I became really curious about human potential. As a psychologist, I always wanted to be an instrument of life improvement. I always wanted to be there for my clients, and I wanted to make sure that I was contributing to more joy and satisfaction in the lives of others. I think that's what drew me to psychology. But for me in that moment, as I began to seek out these answers and explore spirituality, I became really fascinated with the concept that there are human beings on this planet with extraordinary gifts. And I started reading about those individuals. I started reading about people who tapped into healing capacities and were having extraordinary life experiences. And while it filled me with a sense of optimism and hope for humanity, I still felt very ordinary myself. I still felt like I was kind of looking in at something that exists for someone out there, but not me. And I don't know if your listeners can relate to that feeling of, being in wonder of what exists outside of yourself, but looking inside and saying, but yes, but is that me? Is that something that life holds as opportunity for me? And so it was like an interesting, juncture of this juxtaposition of excitement about what can be, but also a self-reflection of, but yes, but what about me? And what ended up happening next was, as I continued to read and read about these, more and more stories of incredible human beings on this planet that discovered extraordinary capacities and abilities, someone suggested that I read the book The Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself by Dr. Eric Pearl. And again, at that time, I was in this mode of anytime someone suggested that I read something or check something out, I began to finally understand that was probably a sign that I should go down that path and explore it. And when I read this book, and I read about the story of Dr. Pearl, a successful chiropractor that began having miraculous experiences with his clients when he just held his hands near them, healing experiences that he couldn't explain. When I started reading this, I thought, here's another great example of a human being on this planet with amazing abilities. But then I get to the end of the book and I hear that he is tapping into something that he claims every single human being has the capacity to hold within them. And that was an intriguing offer, or an intriguing challenge for me, because here I was thinking, okay, I get it. You can do this. You've had these amazing experiences. I'm so happy for you and it's exciting, but what about me? And here he is saying that anyone could tap into this. So I start to look at, well, where is he teaching people how to discover these amazing gifts? And I learned that he's traveling around the world, week after week, holding these training programs, these extended weekend experiences where apparently you can learn how to do this and learn how to hold this healing capacity within you. And I was healthy. There was a healthy level of skepticism. I'll be honest, but it was a challenge that I just couldn't deny taking that leap of discovery. And Teresa, I tell you that when I went to that training, and I flew to Toronto, Canada. I didn't want to wait for him to come to New York because I was impatient. I wanted to know for myself. So there I went. I took my wife with me. I said, come on, we're going to explore this. We're going to see what this is about. And that weekend, everything changed for me. I witnessed, not only within myself, but within everyone that I saw in that experience, just how palpable, just how possible it is to tap into our extraordinary potential. And I couldn't believe what I was able to facilitate in the way of connections with those around me, and tapping into a healing potential to not only be a facilitator or a catalyst, as we say, for healing in those around us, but to tap into that which exists within us as well for our own self-healing. It was an undeniable knowingness that I had never experienced before. And I remember turning to my wife at the end of that weekend and I said, all right, I'm a school psychologist. I don't know how this is fitting into my life, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to practice. I'm going to become a professional practitioner of reconnective healing. I didn't know how that was going to come to fruition. I didn't know how it was going to manifest, but I knew it within every ounce of my being that it was going to be a big part of my life. And the rest, as they say, is history. I mean, I've been on a journey now for a decade where I went from learning how to develop a professional practice in reconnective healing and fit that into my life, to going on to having a very clear vision of creating a holistic center in my home of Long Island, and then deciding at that point that it wasn't enough for me just to bring this into the lives of those around me one by one. I wanted to be, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the musical Hamilton on Broadway.
Oh yeah.
But there's a famous song in that musical that's called "The Room Where It Happens." Well, I'm going to tell you that I wanted to be in the room where it happened every time it happened. I wanted to be a part of that catalytic experience where people wake up to the truth of who they really are. And I wanted to be a part of that experience. I wanted to be a catalyst for others to discover just how incredible we all are and what we're capable of. I mean, I saw how transformative it was in my life, and I just said, you know what? This is a life worth living. Being a part of that expansive awareness, that explosion of that alchemical recognition that you are more than you ever imagined, that spirituality meeting humanity in a real, tangible, demonstratable way. And so I have, just committed myself to being that, being a part of that experience. And now I look at my life and I say it's such a blessing that I get to teach people how to access this, and I feel so honored that Dr. Eric Pearl has given me the role of being the co-director for his organization and allowing me to kind of carry this forward, around the country and beyond. So that's a little. I know that's a lot, but I wanted to give you a little bit of the arc of the journey.
Oh, without a doubt. What an amazing journey. So I've also done this training, and so we'll talk a little about that. And it's funny because I thought whenever I know some other people that also do it, like in Australia, Reconnective, instructors down there. And so I was like, when they asked me, well, how do I find this? I thought, it really found me. I don't know if you feel that way, Rob.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it found me. I had done Reiki, I've done craniosacral, and I was doing healing and massage therapy. And this just came up, and I'm like, I need to go there. I need to experience this. And it was life-changing. I 100% agree with you. And I too was so hungry for the next and next. So I did all the training, did the reconnection, which I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that also, because that's obviously a big part of it is the reconnection. But it was profound. And the energy that comes forth from myself and all the people who are present and the energy in the room, and I've never experienced anything like it. It's just amazing. So I'm with you. I'm on board.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love, Teresa. I love that you've had this experience personally. It's, when I learned that about you, I was so excited to have this conversation because I know that you know firsthand what it's like to kind of open to that. And what's so interesting about reconnective healing is I agree 100%. It finds you. It finds you. And I'm going to tell you, I'm noticing that there are two kind of broad groups of individuals that I recognize are discovered by reconnective healing. There are some that maybe a group that I would fit into, a group of individuals who it shows up and they didn't see it coming. It wasn't even on the radar, spirituality, metaphysics, healing, but all of a sudden they find themselves drawn to this new evolution within their lives. And then there's the other camp that I think you probably fit into, Teresa, of people who have already been exploring spirituality maybe for years and have already been looking at healing as a practice and are just ready for what's next. They're ready for the expansion of what they have already discovered. I feel like those are like the two most common groups, and then everyone else in between. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to me because like I get it for people like myself when this shows up and you go from 0 to 60. You go from like not having any awareness of our deep connections to one another and our spirituality to all of a sudden having a knowingness that this is actually who you are and it can be demonstrated and experienced. I get that. But what's been so fascinating to me is those people like yourself and probably like many other people that tune in to this podcast that have been exploring their spiritual path for years. It's fascinating to me when I listen to people like that who describe what it was that actually turned the light on for them. And what I hear people say time and time again is that they were ready to release the form, the technique, the structure of having to do things a certain way, and they were just completely drawn into this fundamental truth of reconnective healing, and that it is a natural expression of our access to the field. And when I say the field, I'm talking about the energetic field that includes energy, light, information. It's the field of consciousness. It's the natural state of our being. And what we're discovering is that even if we've been practicing healing techniques for years, there is a level of freedom that comes when we recognize that perhaps all of those steps that we took were preparing us for this moment to release the learning of the steps, and recognizing that when we tap into the essence of who we are, we can access healing on a whole new level. And I want to take a look at the concept of healing just for a moment, because when you think about the word healing, if you go to its derivation, healing comes from the root of the word wholeness. That's what healing is at its essence. It's tapping into a return to wholeness. You know, when someone is healed, we can consider them to be once again whole. There's no limits, there's no lack, there's no there's no scarcity in the expression of who they are. And I think this is such a beautiful definition of healing, because in many healing practices, whether it's Eastern or more typical Western modes of healing, there's this concept of focusing in on challenge, where we say, okay, well, here's someone that needs a healing. And we look and say, okay, well, where do we need to heal this person? What needs to be healed? What is lacking? What needs to be remedied? What reconnective healing does is it turns that whole equation upside down. And instead of focusing our attention on where is there a lack, where is there a challenge, where is there a limitation, we start to recognize that the true essence of healing is tapping into our state of wholeness that already exists. We are already whole. And I think when we think about our spirituality, when you think about the essence of who we are, that eternal essence, the essence that was here before we incarnated in physical form, the essence that will continue on, that continuity after we are no longer in physical form, we know that essence is whole. There's no challenges and lacks and limitations in our spiritual essence. And this is, let's be honest, this is what we hear from all the great mediums that have ever connected with the other side. They'll tell you that our loved ones, once they pass on, they release all of the challenges that they had in their human life. They no longer carry that. They release all of it as they reemerge into the wholeness of who they are. But here's the thing. We don't have to wait until we pass on from this physical life to reconnect to the wholeness that is who we are. And that's where reconnective healing comes in. It is an approach to healing that recognizes that we have access to that wholeness. We have access to that spiritual essence. And when you are facilitating reconnective healing as a practice, what you're actually doing is bringing your attention to that essence and saying, you know what, for now, I'm not going to focus on the surface of your humanity, which includes the emotional challenges, maybe the mental clutter that's going on, or maybe even the physical challenges that are getting our attention in our human experience. We're going to take a pause from focusing on the surface of our being, and we're going to play and interact with that essence, that perfect harmony that already exists within you. It's the same harmony, by the way, that we try to tap into when we meditate. It's the same harmony that we reunite with in a yogic practice. It's that same inner harmony that always is existing just below the surface. And when we bring our attention there and interact with one another at that level, that becomes amplified and that rises to the surface, and we begin to receive whatever's appropriate and necessary at this moment so that we can come back into balance in whatever form is appropriate for us. And And we're actually tapping into an intelligence. And an intelligence, when I speak of an intelligence, we're talking about the intelligence of the universe. We can talk about it as the intelligence of the body. I mean, when you get a cut on your finger, how much mental energy do you have to put into that cut to make sure that it heals? Zero. There is an intelligence that knows how to come back into balance. And reconnective healing appears to be an incredible catalyst, there's that word again, to help amplify our natural capacity to heal. But here's the other really incredible distinction between reconnective healing and maybe the traditional ways that we've gone about the energetic healing, for that matter, in the past. You know, we often talk about in the energy healing world, we often talk about sending energy. I'm going to send energy to my client or send energy to a person that needs healing. I love this distinction. When we think about reconnective healing, we're first of all recognizing that, and this is not a new concept. I mean, we're all connected. We're all one, right? And when I say that, for those in this, that are deep into their spiritual journey, this is not like a eureka moment when I say that we're all one, right? So if we really embody that awareness, if we recognize that there is no separation between you and I, there is no separation. We're part of an interconnected field and an interconnected humanity that really is a living, breathing organism where there is no components other than just that wholeness. Now, when I come into the healing experience and I recognize that as a facilitator, if I begin to bring a consciousness of sending healing, immediately I come into an awareness that if I have to send from me to you, I first have to, on some level, acknowledge that there is a gap to bridge. Because if I have something that I have to bring to you, if I have to send you a letter, there's a point where I have the letter and you don't. And then eventually you have the letter and I don't. So when we recognize that if we can connect to this concept of oneness, and then as a facilitator of healing, begin to recognize that our only role is to allow ourselves to be in the receiving of this awareness that we're connected, the receiving of our connection to what you can call the divine, or connection to this universal intelligence. As soon as I put my attention on you while I'm allowing myself to be in that consciousness of receiving and just being already tapped in and tuned into that, I immediately invite you to share this experience with me. Not because I'm sending it to you, I'm lobbing it from one side over a wall to you, but I'm just simply by placing my attention on you in that moment as I allow myself to receive, then we both step into this transcendent experience where we begin to expand into a more truthful recognition of who we are. And that's to me is so powerful. And this is why, when Dr. Pearl's book, Heal Others, Heal Yourself, that wasn't just a catchy phrase. When we step into this interaction, we recognize that as we allow ourselves to become the healing, that we are allowing those in our attention to experience healing as we do. And it's not healing in this, it's not as I heal X, Y, or Z, you're going to heal the same thing. We all have our own personal relationship with what's appropriate and necessary in that moment, and we both begin to receive simultaneously. So that's like some of the core essence of what drew me to the philosophy and consciousness of reconnective healing. It's so expansive and it's so liberating.
So I think this is a good time to let's practice. We talked about, giving some examples, and let's practice the energy a little bit, play with it.
So I'm glad to have the opportunity to do that. And I know that some of your listeners are listening with their ears auditorily, and some are tuning into this visual presentation where you can see us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a couple little interactions where I will talk you through this. So if you don't have the benefit of seeing us on screen, you can follow along. Now, as we do this, I want you to recognize that this is not about, I'm going to take you through an exercise or two, but I want you to recognize that these exercises are not the technique. There is no technique. It's about an expansion of awareness and consciousness. And we use different exercises to explore that field and to explore our awareness. But this is not something that you're going to have to remember, well, what did he say to do with my hands? It's not about that. Follow along, begin to explore, and pay attention to see what shows up. And as we do these types of things, we begin to play and explore, and it's a very childlike kind of exploration of wonder, where we just kind of remain in that state of expectancy, meaning, what am I going to experience? It's different than expectation, where you say, oh, I bet it's going to be like this or that. Expectancy is that wonder of, I wonder what I will notice. So let's do that. So I want you to start by placing your hands palm facing palm right in front of you. And I want you to open up your fingers. So allow the air and the current just to kind of flow around all of the surface of your hands. And I want you to start by imagining a rubber band connected to the inside of one palm to the inside of the other. So there you are with your two hands palm facing palm in front of you, and they're connected to each other by an elastic band. And I want you to begin to stretch that band and imagine the tension as you stretch. See if you can put your awareness, even if it's just using your imagination, imagine that sensation and that tension as you pull. What we're doing right now is just exploring with a new sense. And as you pull, allow it to release just a little bit and let your hands come in and notice the release of the tension as our hands come back together, just as if there was an elastic band. And then once again, pull again. See if you can notice the changes in the sensation as you pull apart. And yes, this is an exercise, it's an exploration, but it's actually an awareness that is bound in truth, in reality, and that is every molecule, every atom of our body is connected and communicating with one another. So what we're actually doing right now is just playing with that space between our hands and seeing what it's like as we begin to just bring our attention to the sensations in our hands. Okay, rest your hands, relax, shake them out. What I want you to do now is we're going to play and do something a little bit interesting. I want you to hold up your hand, palm facing. If you're watching on the screen, just with your palm facing the screen. And if you're listening, I just simply want you to hold up your hand, just with your fingers open. And I want you just to, everyone at this moment, I want you to put your attention into the center of your hand. And so I'm going to take my hand down, but I want you all to keep your hand in that position. Hold your hand there. And I'm now going to take my hand, and I am just going to begin to have an interaction with you. So I'm just simply, for those of you who are just listening, I'm just going to describe what I'm doing. I'm just moving my hand in small circular motions, right facing you, whether it's you in the screen or you listening with headphones or you tuning in any way that you choose. And as I move my hand in those small circular motions, I want you to just make a note to yourself. What are you experiencing? What is showing up in the palm of your hand? Teresa, let me start with you because you're the only one that can talk back to me right now.
Right. I'm feeling the circle. I'm feeling you making a circle in my palm.
Isn't that cool? And how close are you and I right now physically?
Well, I'm in Iowa. Where are you? Oh, you're in New York, right?
I'm in New York. I'm on Long Island. And I want you to know that this is not happening because this is not showing up and coming through the screen. It's not coming through anything. These connections that we're exploring right now are actually happening because we are already connected. I don't have to send this to you in Iowa. I don't have to send this to you in California or in France, wherever you're tuning in to be a part of this experience. This is you just tuning into a connection that we are all sharing. So I'm now going to play. I'm going to stretch. Remember that rubber band we were just playing with? So hold your hand in that same position, and I'm going to pretend that I'm stretching. That band is now connected to the center of my palm, and I'm just going to pull and stretch and stretch and stretch away from your palm. And you might notice that as I do that, maybe the sensation changes a little bit. Maybe it doesn't. Teresa, what do you notice when I do that?
I'm noticing that, well, it's definitely activated, or I should say activated. It feels that way. And I can feel like a string between us.
I mean, it's fascinating. I mean,
Yeah.
so everyone rest your hands, put your hands down at your side for a moment. This might feel like just a playful little exercise of just, a metaphysical parlor trick, so to speak. But I'm going to tell you that this is more than just, isn't that cool? Isn't that nice that we can experience that? When we have these experiences and we bring our awareness to these connections, what we have found through dozens of research studies around the world, looking at reconnective healing, looking at what's taking place within us when we're having these interactions, we're discovering that fundamental shifts are taking place within us, down to the level of our DNA. There's been fascinating research studies with human DNA and looking at how reconnective healing affects every aspect of our cellular makeup and beyond. And one of the things that we have discovered is that every living being gives off something called biophotons. They're imperceptible to the human eye, but they are measurable vibrations of light that come from all living beings. So when you hear someone saying that we're light workers, it is absolutely it's scientific. We are light beings. And that light emanates from every cell in our body. And what science has shown, research has shown that as we step into more levels of vibrancy, that those biophotonic output becomes more intense, more harmonic, more coherent. And they have discovered that reconnective healing experiences tend to amplify that biophotonic output. So all those little adjustments that are taking place at the cellular level are manifested in some of those experiences of our awareness, such as the feeling of that swirling in our hands, that feeling of movement. It's all part of the experience. And so reconnective healing is really about stepping into this broader conscious awareness of our fullness as being connected to everything and everyone, and being in a state of awareness that when we do connect to that, there lies opportunity for true healing, a return to wholeness. Teresa, you asked about the personal reconnection.
Yes.
So everything that we're talking about so far is the art, the practice, the science, the experience of reconnective healing. And that's kind of the umbrella category for this experience of stepping into this greater level of awareness and balance and harmony in our lives. And yes, it can be used to heal on every level, emotionally, physically, even in our spiritual awareness. Again, that was a huge shift for me, was my spiritual awareness as I met reconnective healing. But there is another application of this reconnective healing awareness that, as you brought out, is that we now call the personal reconnection. So what is the personal reconnection? It's in essence a process of really stepping into an alignment of three very central, critical energetic systems that are a part of our human experience. One is the energetic structure of energy flow within the physical body, often described as like the acupuncture lines and points of the body. I mean, the Chinese medicine, they knew this for thousands of years, that there was a structure and a flow of energy within the physical form that helped organize and keep it in harmony. But that's not the end of our energetic blueprint. We don't just exist within our bodies. We know this. There is also a complementary parallel network of energy that exists within the earth itself. The earth is our home. We have a relationship with the earth. All the indigenous populations of the planet knew this, and they continue to remind us that we have a very special relationship with this planet. It is our home. And inside the planet, it is also organized energetically with a flow and a structure of energy. Finally, if you look outside of our physical body and the planet itself, you look into the stars and the heavens and you recognize, have you ever looked at the constellations in the night sky? There's an organization up there. It's not random. It's actually very structured, and the entire universe is held together. The fabric of the universe is held together based on an energetic grid, a structure that allows an organized flow of energy to take place. Now, when we talk about the personal reconnection, which is this application that I want to describe, It's about getting us to reconnect and align these three very important aspects of our humanity: our physical form, the energy that we get from this earth that we're a part of, and the energy throughout the universe. And bringing these three energetic systems into alignment allows an incredible expansion of our life experience, because when we're truly connected to all that is, and that supportive network of energy interchange, we can then live our lives and walk on a path that allows us to really expand and evolve in our journey. It allows us to walk forward in our lives with support energetically from all of these systems, both our physical form and these seemingly external energetic systems that are not so external. And we bring this into an alignment through a very systematic process that's known as the personal reconnection. It's a 2-day process. It's simply 2 sessions that take place on 2 separate days. And in that process, we as facilitators are bringing our attention and our awareness to these very specific lines and points that not only flow through our bodies, but extend out into everywhere, the earth, the universe. And when we have this experience, as many have over the many years that it's been offered, people tend to see dramatic acceleration in the expansion of their life progress and their journey. So it's not just about coming back into balance and harmony where you are right now. It's about looking at the big picture of the life journey. And I look at, for example, me opening up the Holistic Center for Soulful Living on Long Island. That was a part of my personal reconnection journey. I mean, that I began to have more clarity and awareness of what I wanted to accomplish in this lifetime, what I wanted to bring forth in this lifetime, knowing that I was going to be a part of this team of teaching Reconnective Healing. I believe it all came from this clarity that I had when I really stepped into that deeper connection, so that as I experience my life, I have that support around me to kind of live the life that I really came here to experience. And so these are 2 just beautiful applications of this new awareness. And I feel like it's such a gift to be able to not only share it with people so that they can experience it in their lives, but to empower people to recognize that they can also share it with others. And that's where my focus has been lately, is really, finding more and more opportunities for people to discover that reconnective healing is not for just some of us. It's part of our human experience, that we can offer this expansion in our lives and share it with others. And Teresa, this is why I'm so appreciative that you give people like me and so many others the opportunity to share what they've come here to share, because this, we're part of a very important community, and that's a community of like-minded individuals that want to experience expansion and spiritual growth and development. And I love this concept of being enthusiastically spiritual, because I was never enthusiastic about spirituality before.
You are now, Rob. You so are.
Now
I'm going, my God, you're like the poster boy of enthusiastically spiritual. I love it.
So, yeah.
So there's 2 different aspects. There's the healing part with, the reconnective healing. Then there's the reconnection. Let's talk about your event you have coming up called the Catalyst Weekend, because that's coming up soon.
It is coming up. I'm so excited. This is what I was talking about before, being in the room where it happened. These are the events that I live for, because this is when I get to witness the evolution and transformation of people that are walking into a room and saying, what's this going to be like? What am I going to discover about myself and about, my potential and my possibilities? And then I get to watch as those lights come on and they recognize that everyone in the room, including themselves, holds this capacity and actually realizes and recognizes it. So we hold these events several times throughout the year, and our next event is happening in the beautiful oceanside town of Virginia Beach. We actually reserved a hotel right on the water, so just we can be surrounded by nature as we have this experience. It's November 12th and 13th, and it's called the Catalyst Weekend because it is transformative. It's transformative in our own lives, and it's transformative in what you are able to bring forth as you leave. And here's the best part of it is that, when you think about being on a healing journey, in the sense of learning how to become a healing facilitator, or just wanting to experience your own healing transformation, often when we think about that endeavor, we think about the concept of a journey, meaning like, oh, this is going to be years worth of study and years worth of exploration, and maybe I'll get there one day. Well, here's the beautiful thing about reconnective healing is it's so natural to who we are that it only takes a few days to step into a true awareness that mastery lies within. It's not something that we have to kind of toil at to reach a level of where eventually there's no such thing as a master reconnective healing practitioner. Reconnective healing reveals to everyone who chooses to bring it into their lives that the mastery is already there. It's already within you. You don't become a master. It reveals, it becomes a mirror to reflect that mastery is within. So just so you know, the arc of training, it actually, there's two central components and then a third potential after that. The first is there's an online experience that we now offer that we call the portal. Aptly named because it's your entry into this new awareness. And the portal is about 8+ hours worth of content that you will be able to do at your own time, your own leisure, on your phone, your computer, and it's broken up into different modules. And it's taught by Dr. Eric Pearl, the founder of Reconnective Healing, and Jillian Fleer, who's the head of Insight and Development for the Reconnection organization. Jillian is also a very inspiring instructor herself, and has been a partner with Eric in his teaching journey for many years now. So that portal experience, you do on your own. You can do it as soon as tomorrow if you choose. And it takes you through some exercises, more exercise than what I just did with you today. But also takes you into a little bit more of the history, some of the science, some of the philosophy. And at the end of that experience, you are prepped and ready to come join us for the weekend. So that's the next step, is the Catalyst Weekend, which I'm offering in Virginia Beach in November. Once you leave that weekend experience in Virginia Beach with me and my team, and by the way, Dr. Pearl and Jillian Fleer are going to be joining us that weekend. I've invited them to be there, and they have accepted my invitation. So it's also a really great opportunity to get a chance to interact with him. But getting back to the training, once you leave that weekend, I can guarantee you one thing. And that is, you will have full access to the Reconnective Healing Experience, to share it with others, to bring it into your life, and you will have that knowingness. You will have had an opportunity to witness and experience what it's like to bring this into the world, bring it into your life, and to share it. Now, if you decide that you want to practice this professionally, which I serendipitously decided I was going to do when I finished my training, you are actually eligible to practice professionally if it's the right fit for you. If this is something you want to do, we will give you the opportunity to accept the terms and conditions of being a professional, what we call foundational practitioner of reconnective healing. And you can actually bring this forward professionally. We also offer a lot of other opportunities to help support you in that journey. As a matter of fact, I'm teaching a practice development course that I just did about an hour. That was yesterday, I guess. Yesterday was my last course, but we teach it throughout the year for those who want a little support in getting their practice off the ground. And so those are just other opportunities to kind of help you along the way if you decide to move forward professionally with this in your life. And then that personal reconnection that we talked about, we actually have another weekend course for those wanting to learn how to facilitate that. That's another course that we offer throughout the year. So, but I know, Teresa, that I wanted to give some gifts to your listeners, and so there are two things that I want to make available to everyone that's listening to my voice right now. One is we've put together an ebook regarding reconnective healing. It's really beautifully done, and it really has tons of information about the topics that we've been discussing and a lot more. So if I believe my email contact will be available, Teresa.
Without a doubt, that'll be in the show notes for sure, Rob.
So so if you email me and let me know that you'd like to receive a copy of that ebook, I will actually absolutely send that right over to you. Plus, that portal course that I mentioned, that eight plus hours of learning content. I will be happy to give you the first hour for free. Just let me know that it's something you're interested in, and I'll shoot you the information that you need to just sign up and receive that and jump right in and begin your training experience and your expansion. But I you know my most fervent goal in my life at this moment is to just open a door for people. I don't pull people through the door. I don't push them through the door. I open it up and I say, take a peek inside, because it's really phenomenal, and I want people to have access to this. And so thank you, Teresa, for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about what I've discovered.
Oh, Rob, it's been joyful. And I'll tell you what, as soon as I knew what you did, I'm like, oh, because I love the reconnection and the reconnective healing so much. So I'm so happy you've been here today. I'm glad that you shared with my listeners, a little bit of play, a little play with the energy, because I mean, I'm so filled with it right now. It's not even funny. So I just love it so much. And I thank you for coming on and sharing today. And I will have all the information, how to get a hold of Rob, how to connect with him on Instagram, Facebook, email, website. It'll all be in the show notes. So if you guys are interested, take advantage. And like I said, the Catalyst Weekend's coming up November, and it will be, I can tell you from experience, phenomenal.
It's a beautiful community that we are growing, and I can't wait to meet you in Virginia Beach. So come join us.
Thank you, Rob.